If you're a football player and you're not playing all the time, you're sitting on the bench a lot, it's good to evaluate your situation and maybe look for a transfer away to a different club. Normally, the summer transfer window is the best option to get a move away. If you make a move early, you can have the entire preseason and get used to the club. New teams are formed over that period, so if you impress, you can get a spot in your new team. But sometimes, for whatever reason, transfers don't go ahead. Either the buying club pulls out, the selling club doesn't want to cooperate, or the player just isn't convinced with the move. And that's exactly what we're going to be focusing at in this video, because we're going to look at some players that are already regretting not making a move this summer. So without further ado, let's get right into the video. The first player is Hakim Ziyech, and this guy has a special place in my heart. This is just one of many shirts I have from him. When he was at Ajax, this guy was clearly my favorite player, and especially the 18-19 season when Ajax went all the way to the semi-finals of the Champions League. This guy arguably was one of the best players, if not the best, in the entire team. Clearly the most creative in the entire squad, and his magic made the entire world fall in love with Ajax that season. After that amazing campaign, he stayed for one more year at Ajax before finally making the move to Chelsea for 40 million euros. So naturally, expectations were high, and Frank Lampard, who was the coach at the time, had a plan and a specific system that would be very well suited to Hakim Ziyech's talent. But within a few months, Lampard was sacked, Thomas Tuchel came in, and from that moment, Hakim Ziyech didn't have a spot in the team anymore. When he played, he was decent, but the position that he normally played in his teams was just not available anymore in Tuchel's system. So this summer, Ziyech decided he wanted out, and Ajax actually wanted to buy him back. Club lost Antony to Manchester United for almost 100 million euros, and Antony was Ziyech's replacement, so they wanted to replace Antony with Ziyech. And if you ask me, it would have made a lot of sense, because this guy perfectly fits the Ajax system, and he would have been the perfect replacement for Antony. But the move broke down, and Ziyech stayed at Chelsea, and right now he still isn't playing, even though that there's a new coach. But Graham Potter also doesn't really have faith in him, unfortunately. So for this season, he only played 120 minutes across 3 appearances in the Premier League, and I'm pretty sure that both Ziyech and Ajax would have wanted this transfer to go ahead. The next player is Cristiano Ronaldo, and guys, calm down, don't get angry immediately. Let me explain myself, because obviously we know Cristiano Ronaldo wanted out. It was no surprise, he wanted to go to every other club if that meant that he would leave Manchester United. Because this guy already saw it coming, Manchester United were not going to compete for the titles, and at the age of 37, Cristiano Ronaldo doesn't have time to wait up. But when it turned out that no club in Europe wanted to sign Cristiano Ronaldo, his only option was to stay at the club, and that's exactly what he did. But the consequences of his behavior, that he isn't Manchester United's first striker anymore. But you might say he played in 8 games out of a possible 9, so how is that not a first team player? Sure, yeah, he featured in almost every single game, but he only played 42% of the available minutes this season. He usually starts on the bench, but then he gets to play in the second half, and so far he only scored 1 goal in this entire season. Good goal though came last weekend against Everton, but let's be honest, going from Manchester United's top scorer last season, the 3rd Premier League top scorer, to somebody who's on the bench more than he's actually playing, to only have 1 goal, as painful as it sounds, I think that it would have been best both for Manchester United and Ronaldo if he got the move last summer. But like I said, no club was interested in him, so this was basically his only option. So objectively, he can only blame himself for his behavior. But yeah, I'm pretty sure that he would have loved to play somewhere else in Europe right now. The next player we're going to talk about is Donny van de Beek. And I'm sorry, but this is not good promotion for Ajax. Another Ajax player from the 18-19 season that currently isn't playing for his club in the Premier League. In the 18-19 season, Donny van de Beek was absolutely unbelievable for Ajax, scoring 17 goals across all competitions. So naturally, he was already on the radar of a lot of clubs, big clubs. Real Madrid was also very close to signing him. A few weeks ago, his agent shared a story that everything was wrapped up for that deal. The contracts only needed to be signed, but then, strangely enough, Real Madrid pulled out. So Van de Beek stayed for another year at Ajax, just like Ziyech, scoring 10 more goals across all competitions. But then Manchester United came calling, and Donny van de Beek signed for 40 million euros. But from the moment he signed, Donny van de Beek never really got his chance in the team. In his first season, he still made 19 appearances, scoring 1 goal. Last season, he only played 8 times for the club before getting loaned out to Everton, where he played 7 times. And this season, across 3 appearances, he only played 19 minutes. Sure, he's out with an injury right now, but this already is the 3rd season where Donny van de Beek isn't getting regular game time. And it's not like we're talking about a 21-year-old who has a lot of time to improve and get used to the Premier League, because Donny van de Beek will already turn 26 in April next year. And even though Erik ten Hag, his former Ajax coach, is now the manager of Manchester United, I still don't see a happy ending for Donny van de Beek at Manchester United. Next up is Theo Walcott, who still plays for Southampton. Well, it's better to say he's under contract at Southampton, because this guy does not play. You might think, sure, he played a little bit this season. No, so far this guy played 0 minutes across across all competitions for the club. I'm not gonna lie, I completely forgot that this guy was still under contract at Southampton. And when he came back to his boyhood club in 2020, I'm pretty sure that both he and the club expected his return to go a little bit different than it's going right now. While on loan at the club in the 2021 season, he still played 20 games and scored 3 times in the Premier League. But last year's game time already decreased to only 9 games, and so far this season it looks like Walcott should have gotten out in the summer. Both Cardiff and West Brom were actually interested in bringing the player to their club, but Theo Walcott had no interest in going down to the Championship. But if you look at the situation right now, it probably would have been better, because surely second-tier football is still better than no football at all. But the 47-time England international can definitely look back on a great career. He played 539 games, scoring 127 times, playing most of his time at Arsenal. And that's probably the best way to remember him, because this season I'm pretty sure that we're not going to see a lot of his talent anymore. The next player we're going to talk about is Aaron Wan-Bissaka from Manchester United. And I can already tell you, this is not the last Manchester United player we're going to talk about. And before we move on, let me know in the comments down below who you think is the other Manchester United player that probably should have moved away from the club this summer. While you're at it, drop a like as well and subscribe to the channel if you're new. Last year, Aaron Wan-Bissaka got a lot of criticism, which was pretty justified. At times he looked very shaky, and he was part of a defense that conceded the most goals that Manchester United ever conceded in a single campaign. While the club also finished 6th in the Premier League. Last season was his 3rd at the club after 2 seasons where he played quite a lot, playing 35 and 34 games in both seasons. But last year the cracks started to show and he only played 20 times, and he got so much criticism that a move away from Manchester United probably would have been his best option. Over the season he only played 4 minutes against Liverpool, and again, just like with Donny van de Beek, sure, this guy's injured right now, but it wasn't like he was playing before his injury either. Like I said, he only played 4 minutes across the first 4 Premier League games. The 2 games after that he wasn't even in the matchday squad, and that's when he picked up his injury, so before his injury he wasn't even playing. And sure, this guy was pretty decent at Crystal Palace, but Manchester United paid 54 million euros to get him to the club. And if you see him play right now, that seems a little bit outrageous. So if they sell him, which I'm pretty sure is better for both the club and the player, they're not going to recuperate a big chunk of that fee. Next up is Jairo Riedewald from Crystal Palace. Again, another former Ajax player, but this one is a little bit different. First of all, he left the club in 2017, so he wasn't part of the golden generation. And to be fair, when he played for Ajax, he also wasn't that great either. Crystal Palace fans expected a lot from him when they signed him back in 2017, but most Ajax fans saw that this guy wasn't really that special and he wasn't that great of a player. So the fact that he isn't playing in the Premier League right now doesn't surprise me personally actually. In 6 seasons at the club, only 1 season he was a first team player, because in the 2021 season he played 33 times, scoring twice from centre back. But the season after that, last season, he only played 5 times, which should have been a sign that he should have left the club, because over this season it hasn't been much better for Riedewald. He wasn't in the squad for most of the games this season and he only played 34 minutes against Leicester. Patrick Vieira clearly isn't a big fan of Riedewald, so in hindsight he probably should have left this summer. Next up is Liverpool's Nathaniel Phillip, and it looks like this guy is nowhere near Jurgen Klopp's plan for Liverpool's squad. In August it took injuries for Joe Gomez, Joel Matip and Ibrahima Konate to throw Phillips into his starting 11 for the first time in a year and a half, when Liverpool played out a 1-1 draw against Crystal Palace. And during that game he didn't really make a name for himself, as he had a lot of trouble with Wilfried Zaha, and it's pretty clear that he didn't really make an impression, because 9 games later, and that game against Crystal Palace is still his only game of the season. The player is already turning 26 in March, and if you ask me, it doesn't seem likely that he will become a first team player for Liverpool, which isn't a shame. I mean, these guys have a lot of quality, but a move away definitely will be the best for him, and he should have probably done it last summer. Next up is Chelsea's Armando Broya. The 21-year-old Albanian striker is a big talent. He showcased that last year on loan at Southampton, scoring 9 goals across all competitions. You can say that 6 goals in the Premier League across an entire season for a striker really isn't enough. Sure, his output could be higher, but he showed a lot of times that this guy is a great player. And personally, I've seen it as well. The season before he was playing for Vitesse in the Netherlands, where he also made a pretty good impression, so this guy clearly is talented. But at the age of 21, you definitely need to play, and that currently isn't really happening at Chelsea. He only played 13% of the available minutes this season for the club. He still managed to bag a single goal, which is pretty decent, but it's clear that he isn't ready for the Chelsea first team squad. A permanent move away to the club would be a little bit stupid from Chelsea, because this guy clearly is talented, but a loan transfer to a different Premier League club maybe would have been the best for the player. Because like I said, at the age of 21, it's just important that you get regular first team football. So Broya will probably be looking to seal a loan move away in January. The next player is a Manchester United player, and if you guessed it, then well done to you, because this one is a strange one, but in my opinion it makes sense. Because I think that Harry Maguire should have left Manchester United United this summer. And no, I'm not going to hate on Maguire just because, but I clearly think that his situation at Manchester United isn't salvageable. Let's be honest, Maguire isn't a bad defender. He might not be a Manchester United level defender, and the fact that the club paid more than 80 million pounds for this guy really doesn't boast in his favor. But at the age of 29, this guy could still be a good defender for any other Premier League team. Well, except the likes of Liverpool, Chelsea, Manchester City. The top clubs, we will not talk about them, but any other club, definitely this guy would be an asset for. And I mean, if you play at a club, you get so much criticism. Eventually it's gonna go to your head, and that's what we're seeing right now, because this guy clearly has no confidence, so when he plays, he does the weirdest thing. Last season as well, and I don't think that this situation will get any better at the club. It would be best for both club and the player to just get out. And it makes sense that this guy wants to stay at Manchester United. A new manager, new opportunities, new energy, but I don't really think that he fits the system, so it's better for him to look elsewhere. And after all the criticism of last season, he probably should have left the club. And I don't know, a January loan move away maybe could give him a little bit more confidence back, but in the long run, I think a permanent move for Harry Maguire would be the best solution. Next up is Newcastle United's Jamal Lewis. A few years ago, this guy was a big talent in the Championship, and after his first season with Norwich in the Premier League, every big club wanted this guy. Even the likes of Liverpool were in to sign the player for like 20 million pounds. But eventually he sealed a move to Newcastle United, and this has not been a success. In his first season he played 24 times in the Premier League, but last season it decreased massively to only 5 Premier League games. And this season he only played 7 minutes against Fulham. The rest of the games he's either not in the squad or on the bench. And last summer he was linked with a move to Nice, but that didn't happen. And I don't know what's worse, because playing in Ligue 1 for a side that isn't really doing that well isn't that great, but not playing for Newcastle in the Premier League probably isn't really the best option either. So in hindsight, probably the Nice move would have been better, because at least he would have played, and 7 minutes only this entire Premier League season, after just playing 5 games last season, just shows that the club does not have any faith in this guy. And it's a pretty far cry from 2 years ago when clubs like Liverpool were interested in signing him. But maybe another Premier League club is interested in picking him up on loan in January, but I wouldn't be surprised if his Premier League days are over. So guys, that's the video done. Let me know in the comments down below who you think should have made a move this summer. It can be a player from this list, it can also be another player that you have in mind. Just let me know in the comments. While you're at it, be sure to like the video, subscribe if you're new to the channel as well. Click my videos on the end screen right now, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace.